Welcome back, friends. You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
What's going on, everybody? My name is John Brookhagen, host of the Johnny Brew Show, and welcome to part 2 of this fascinating interview with Carolina Serrano, who's running for the House of Representatives to represent us here in Nevada District 4. And we are going to be talking all about what her platform is in running for such a federal position. Once again, we welcome Carolina Serrano.
Thank you.
I got your name right that
yes.
time. Serrano.
Perfect.
De Colombia.
Uh-huh.
Very good. All right, well, let's just jump right into it. For me, we started the Johnny Brew Show just to promote conservatism mostly. We got involved in a couple of little things, party politics and crap, but the main purpose of me wanting to speak to people is to promote smaller government at home, America first abroad, and a love for our founding documents. Is that what conservatism means to you, or more specifically, what does conservatism mean to you?
I think it's conserving, yes, those things, but it's conserving traditional values, I don't even really like to define it too much, though, because I feel like I'm hard to politically define, but I am conservative in the sense that I believe in conserving value, like family values, society values, those deep traditional values.
It seems like the left is continually to, whether you're talking about forced free childcare or free college, it looks like they want the government or the institution or some sort of institution to care for our children. Mm-hmm. You talk about welfare, where you get more money if you're single, as opposed to, which breaks up families or incentivizes the breaking up of families. Conservatism, as far as, recognizing God or whatnot. It sounds like that's what you're...
Those are,
Because you're not a political person.
No.
I've, outlined exactly what conservatism is for me in order for my show, but what is it politically that drives you then?
Politically, it just, it's like I said, when I started to get my feet wet in politics, I realized like the party that I had identified with, which was Democrat, was totally breaking apart the things that mean a lot to me.
Right.
Family, God, those two mainly. I see that they're pulling those threads and kind of moving in another direction that I was like, no, that's not where I want to go. In the name of progression.
Especially being Colombian, the family unit is everything in Colombia.
Yeah, but they use it like in the name of progress, we have to move things
for the greater good.
Yeah, and it's no. There's things that should not be moved. They don't have to progress in that sort of way. Especially
being in a family and having the support system of a family. So right now, the big story across the country is the economy.
Yeah.
There's many aspects to it, where you're talking about inflation, you're talking about these spending bills, you're talking about, just the way money is working with the way banks are working, the new thing not in the bill regarding $600 tracking of transactions.
Yeah.
First of all, I heard you, I think it was on Bannon, or it might have been Gorka, where you were speaking about the economy, and you really sound very educated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where you got this knowledge from, but where are you learning about the economy? Because you sound like you know a lot more than the average Joe.
So the funny thing is, and I think we're talking about this earlier, is they want to dumb us down. And for a long time, listen, I know that my strongest suit was not, mathematics when I was in math class, like Math 124 and all these classes.
This segment's brought to you by Infinity, the Math Institute. Don't get more math problems. Get solutions.
Yeah, I love it. But everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. And then, but when you start learning about the economy or finance, you tend to realize, at least me, I'm realizing, hey, this isn't as complicated as they dress it up to be. And so I've listened to Peter Schiff for a long time, who's an economist.
Right.
he's been talking about the economy and where we've been trending for a while. That's really where I've been learning a lot of the stuff from. And then even something as silly as, I started, my parents are not invested in stock markets or anything like that. But I started to it's self-taught. I mean, there's so much information on the internet. It's kind of hard not to.
You could open up a TD Ameritrade account, deposit
that's exactly what I did.
$500.
That's exactly what I did. And then you start learning from people like maybe Peter Schiff, or there's other guys that I've found through YouTube.
I like Tom Sowell.
Yeah, I have his book. Yeah, I read one of his books. But they keep you up to date with what is moving the economy today. And if you just follow it, you learn. And that's really the way I did it. Well,
then what would you look to change or look to do if you were able to be a part of the House of Representatives, which is in charge of the purse strings here in America? What direction do you think we're going that we shouldn't be going in, and what direction do you think we should be going in?
So Stephen Horsford sits on the Appropriations Committee, which is the most powerful committee in Congress. And so I learned all this a lot from the guy that I'm telling you about, Peter Schiff. But he started talking about something called modern monetary theory.
Right.
And it's essentially just deficit spending. It's essentially, when you start learning about government as well, you know that government is funded by we the people.
Right. Income is taxes.
Yes. They tax us in order to supposedly take it to invest in our communities, our roads, our infrastructure, wherever it might be needed.
Sounds good.
Sounds nice, right?
Yeah, sounds great. I like hospitals and roads.
Mm-hmm. But that's not what's happening. And so when you start listening to somebody like, Peter Schiff or all these economists who start talking about it, the government has been using our sweat equity basically and just taking out loans on our backs to fund what have they really been funding? Trillions of dollars in foreign wars. And I learned that when I was working on Capitol Hill. I went to the Foreign Affairs Committee's hearings.
Really?
And the amount of money, and I still have these papers that I wrote down because I would take notes, and I have it at home. Trillions of dollars sent to these foreign countries to fight these wars. And you'd have people testify literally, the money was already appropriated to us through Congress and you can't give it back. They just say, well, spend it. Spend it however.
Right. And then that's why they're blowing up a truck with a flat tire that costs $300,000 in technology, because they'll just build another one and they don't want to
they're just
fix the flat.
Spend it however. And then the guy said, that's why you have these big, beautiful buildings sitting in the middle of a Middle Eastern country that are empty.
Right. Well, the embassy that we just gave away in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. And I mean, am I ignorant? I mean, you seem like you've been educating yourself a lot about this stuff. And I'm not even playing when I say, can't we just take a zero off of every number that's proposed? I mean, when you're talking about $1.2 trillion in this year in Afghanistan, can't we just change that to $120 billion? When you're talking about financing,
change it to zero. Why are we giving the money? So I started learning this too. This comes from being in Colombia as well. When you hear about the foreign aid that say they've sent to Colombia, having lived in Colombia, that money doesn't get to the people.
Right.
It's almost like a money laundering scheme. They send it from the U.S. supposedly to help in Colombia, and what it really happens, because Colombia has so much corruption, what really happens is it stays at the top between the big players.
Well, you said there's an elite class and then there's an underclass.
In the political class and in the whatever companies they might have down there. Criminal organizations that they're working with. Those are the people who get the money.
Is it Hugo Chavez? No, that's Venezuela.
He was Venezuela.
Oh, okay, yeah. But I'm just saying, whoever the leader is, they get the money, and then their brother opens up a solar wind farm company.
Yes.
Here's $1 billion. Why don't you try to make a solar wind farm?
It always stays at the top. It never gets to the people. And so that's why all of this debt that we've racked up has been to fund these,
right.
things that we don't even see. I mean, they're telling us that they're, right?
But if you just took the money we're sending to Guatemala, sending to Haiti, sending to Africa, if you took all that money back over the past 20 years, that would be our deficit.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
I have a solution. Are you ready? Because I'm going to give you this. This is a gift. Because I'm not planning on running for the House of Representatives. But I got the idea. You ready for the idea?
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, we're going to get into open borders, right? So we have a whole bunch of people pouring in here, right? Guatemalans, you name it.
Yeah.
Colombians, Mexicans, Africans, Afghanistanians, or whatever. They're all coming in, right? And then Kamala, the border czar, thinks that the way to address this issue is to throw money at, say, Guatemala, right?
No.
And that's going to improve Guatemala, but like you say, it doesn't ever get past the elites in Guatemala or Colombia or anywhere. Here's my solution. You ready? Because eventually we're going to have to turn off the spigot of illegal immigration.
Yeah,
I mean,
hopefully.
God willing, we get a conservative in power in 2022 where we can have at least Congress, and then 2024 if we get a president there to finish the wall. God willing. And then...
It's going to happen.
Okay.
We're turning off the spigot and then some.
And now you brought up a number, which is a lot closer to my number. I continue to hear the number of illegal immigrants in our country is 11 million. Even though 1 million have come just in the past 7 months, they still don't say 12 million just over the past... The number's been 11 million since 2003. You said, and I have said as well, that number is approaching 50 million. In my opinion, I think it's approaching 50 million.
Yeah.
Other people say it's 21 to 31 million. But nonetheless, we have a significant portion of our country. I would say a minimum of 10% of our country is undocumented.
Yeah.
And, you're talking about like the Dreamers. They account for less than 1 million people. I mean, if we were to grant amnesty to the Dreamers, it's not going to change up the makeup of our neighborhoods. It's not going to change our culture. This is 900,000 kids who have been acclimated and are part of our culture nonetheless. But when you introduce another 900,000 people who just came here from Colombia or Guatemala or Afghanistan, they're not active. That's changing the makeup of our neighborhoods. Now, how are we going to... how do you blame these people? Like, they're being invited here for a better life, right? I mean, if you were growing up in Colombia and you found into America, you would take it. Luckily, you were able to do it legally. But anybody from anywhere would say, oh, America's border's open. Let's go to the promised land. Right? Anybody would do that.
I feel like that's an oversimplification, though. Because, listen, Colombia has a lot of problems. And there's millions of patriotic Colombians who stay in their country, and they'll stay there no matter what because it's their country, and they still make it work. I mean, none of my friends from Colombia. I mean, some classmates have moved to the U.S., but I think it's like an oversimplification. I think people don't realize how much people really do love their home country, and if they could stay there, and if that country functioned, they would stay there. They would be there.
All right. So here's my solution. So now all these people say, over the, however many are here, say there's 10 million people, just for a nice easy number, and 1 million of them are from Mexico. Instead of giving Mexico all the foreign aid that we give them, that Kamala wants to give them to improve Mexico, so that way people won't do that, we're going to need to ask these people who have come here over the past 4 years or 2 years to go back. So instead of giving Mexico $10 million, why don't we send back, 1,000 Mexicans with $10,000 each to go buy a house and start a business in Mexico? Then all those people will start businesses in their little towns. They'll have money in a house. They'll be able to start a business, and the money will get to the lower people as opposed to going through the elites. And then we could get rid of people who are undocumented. They can have a better life. And I know it's kind of like rewarding people who broke the law to get in here.
I was just about to say, can you imagine how many people would flood over here if they knew the United States is sending you back with cash?
Well, no, we have to build the wall. I predicated this on building the wall first. You got to turn off the spigot. The plumber doesn't fix the leak until he turns off the water supply, right?
But could you imagine giving that money to an American who lives in San Francisco and is struggling to make ends meet and it has a drug addiction? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's my take on it. It's
why are we doing that?
Why
We're
are we
not
doing
helping
it?
our veterans.
We have to help our country first. Just like when I'm in Colombia, I would advocate the same thing. Colombia's resources, Colombia's, money or whatever they have, it belongs to the people that are from there first. It's not fair for, somebody from Venezuela to just come over, which is happening right now, to them and take their jobs and take their resources.
Right.
It's not fair.
Right. I'm saying if we're going to send Mexico $10 million, then that's the way to do it. But you're saying we shouldn't be sending Mexico anything.
No, we can't.
I'm guessing the hardcore conservative. That's why you're running for the House and I'm in my basement doing a podcast.
No, but I mean, throwing money at the problem doesn't solve it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, what about this bill that's coming in now? They're looking to spend another $3.5 trillion over the next 10 years. And to be honest, I don't know anything that's in the bill. And you ask the average American, nobody knows what this 3.5 trillion, I was going to say million, then I corrected myself to say billion, then I realized it's trillion. What is this money going towards? And what happens in an economy that's not producing anything?
I mean, you see what's happening, right? That money is a payoff. I mean, that's essentially what that money is. I don't think that anyone really knows where that money is going to go. They can say all they want that it's going to go toward roads or bridges, just like they said for decades. The
last one.
Yeah, that everything that was happening in Afghanistan was to train these people so that they can defend their country. It's a lie. It goes, I think a lot of it gets funneled back into elections here, back into the pockets of maybe foreign,
Right, the union backs Hillary, and then Hillary approves budget.
It's a giant payoff for the people at the top, is really what it is. Dressed up as...
isn't that what all the Green New Deal is? I mean, whether you're talking about the Paris Climate Accord and just sending money over there, or you're talking about, Obama having all these incentives and free grant money for wind farms and solar farms, where I just found out the one right here outside of Las Vegas, that thing's been turned off for the past 2 years. They're not even using it. You drive to California, you see all the things. And I was thinking, that's good in the middle of nowhere. I'm not against diversifying our energy. I'm not against solar energy.
Either.
And I saw that thing, and I'm like, why don't they do that in more desert areas? Like Nevada's a big desert. And then I find out that thing isn't even turned on, and it was a couple of $1 billion to build.
It's a giant scam. Like, that's the thing. I think that, so the Clintons did that in Haiti, right? When the earthquake happened.
Right.
And then their friend, I forgot who it was, somebody close to them.
Through the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah, got the contract, and they get paid this big money, and it's like...
Whatever happened?
Nothing ever happens. You know what I mean? They take the money.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
So much money.
And it's our money.
And like you said, I go to the school board meetings. And they're talking about $100 million for this, $45 million for that. And, these numbers, I don't think people give it the gravity that it affords. I mean, the numbers are just astronomical. And I don't think it's necessary.
No, it's not. And I feel like the numbers, when they're so big, they almost just don't seem real.
Right.
Right.
I mean, you couldn't say $1 billion 20 years ago. And we just skipped over the billion, the 10 billion, the 100, and now we're just talking about $3.5 trillion.
Like it's nothing.
That's a whole year's worth of taxes that the United States brings in, about $4 trillion a year. How could we be thinking about something? We're up against it right now. Just throw another $3.5 trillion, a whole year's worth of income?
Not going to work. Not going to happen.
All right. And what about unemployment? We have... Unemployment is lower than the jobs available number, yet we continue to have unemployment. How could you do something about that?
I think, so we have to, for specifically Nevada, I would like to see different industries come in. First of all, we have to get the economy just back and going. This is what happened when, they said, 15 days to slow the spread, 15 days to shut down the economy. I don't think that people really realized how bad the after effect of doing that was going to be. And they continue to do it with little things like, oh, you need to have a mask mandate. Oh, now you need the vaccine mandate. It's causing people to not go to work. People don't want to...
Some people are genuinely scared.
Yeah. But I mean, it's almost like, gosh, I didn't love my job, first of all. And now you're throwing this on me. What is my incentive to go back and work for a company who treats me that way? And I think people have been feeling that way for a very long time, because for a long time, workers have been treated as just a number.
Yep. And right, if you're just going to sit on an assembly line, you're not really passionate about your work.
No.
If you're working for Amazon, just checking a barcode and putting it in at the right colored bin, it's not like, you seem to have a passion. For you got a college education, you're so smart, and you enjoy cocktailing, you enjoy waitressing, you meet people, you're doing your thing, you make good money. I teach, I enjoy it. I don't want to not teach, but I guess if I was just plugging a hole in a warehouse, maybe I could be all right if I didn't do that.
But I have to be honest, so I enjoyed cocktailing for a time, but I wouldn't say it's my passion. I feel like this has become my passion, but it afforded me the opportunity for a lot of good things, right?
But you enjoy it is what I mean.
I did at one point, yeah.
You don't, not so much anymore?
I mean, now I'm a little burnt out, right? Because anyone who, and that's why I say I would love to see more industries come to Nevada, because I think that I hear across the board in my industry, when you first start, it's a great industry for when you're young. It is.
Right.
I'm getting older. I want a family. I want a bit more stability, and I want normal hours. Las Vegas is
right. You gotta work
24/7 city. Working at night is really tough. You have that workers. What's it called? The syndrome.
Carpal tunnel?
No, it just escaped me. But when
your body clock is off,
when you essentially work the reverse of what is natural to your body clock.
Right.
It has a lot of effects.
Right. Draining on energy.
Health-wise, yeah. And that's why, I'd like to see different industries come here, because I think that cocktailing is great for some time.
Right.
But I don't think it's something that you can do long term. It's not sustainable, and that's part of the reason of why I really want to see new industries come to Nevada.
I saw on one of your interviews you were talking about something, and I thought it was a really cool parallel to the former of cocktailing or hostessing or bartending, and then you said you wanted to see more of the fashion industry move to Vegas, which would be a nice transition for a girl to go from cocktailing to working in, the textile industry or fashion or modeling.
And the thing is, I got somebody laughed at me. I remember reading a comment where somebody laughed at the fact that I said that, and I said, have you looked at the numbers of the fashion industry? Right. It's a ton of money and jobs that it brings.
And attention.
And, And
nothing draws a crowd like a crowd.
Yeah. But, I mean, we're always going to be clothed. We always need clothing. I mean, that's one of the biggest bases in China right now is clothing manufacturing. And so I'm like, I don't think it's crazy to say, hey, why are LA and New York the meccas for this?
And Paris. Oh, these are the trendy cities in the world.
But
what is Vegas?
But here in the U.S., you have L.A. and New York as kind of the meccas for this industry. And I'm like, those are two of the most expensive states, the most regulated states. Why not bring that industry over here? And yes, Las Vegas is iconic globally. And I don't think that people realize that.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you get a pretty bag that says, Calvin Klein Milan. Mm-hmm. Why couldn't we have a Calvin Klein Las Vegas?
Mm-hmm. Elevate the city even more.
Exactly. I mean, we got the Raiders, we got hockey. We're growing by leaps and bounds. We're trying to become a real metropolitan city, which is really weird because we got this little thing in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. We don't have suburbs. We just have the 2 million people in the valley. And we have to grow like that, where, somebody like LA, they got suburbs for thousands or hundreds of miles in every direction. New York, you go in every direction. Vegas, we got to build our own thing, but we're doing it. Yeah. And why is it, fashion, we could have the Emmys, we could have the NBA All-Star Game. Why can't we have a runway and a factory and a branch of Calvin Klein?
I think we could totally, we have the capacity to have that industry here, and how cool would it be to have a garment district that you could walk through, and then what better setting than Las Vegas and the hotels and to showcase or launch a clothing event.
And we have money and beautiful people and beautiful
everybody
venues.
Comes here, and that's the thing. It's like I feel like
convention space.
I feel like when you've worked in the industry like we have, everybody at some point comes to Las Vegas. All these big companies or all these, globally, they like to send their people to conventions in Las Vegas, and it's really a meeting ground.
And furniture. Mm-hmm. They turned Vegas into the mecca of furniture, right? Didn't all these there companies end up coming out here? And we got the World Market Center there at the Spaghetti Bowl, which is all furniture. Mm-hmm. I mean, which is why couldn't we do the same exact thing with fashion?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a pretty cool idea.
I mean, to me, I was like, that's just an easy industry that came to mind. And listen, that's just my idea right now. Talking to people more,
we could. There's other
exactly.
ideas.
Yeah, we could see.
Yeah, I wouldn't run your campaign based on turning Vegas into the fashion capital of the world.
But we could see what industries make sense to bring over here.
Right. Well, Amazon just came here. I mean, I think that's great. You know, up by the racetrack, that's like something crazy, 8,000 or 10,000 jobs. Mm-hmm. Not casino, not the mining.
Yeah.
We need to diversify.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, if something horrible, we ran out of some sort of mineral, then we don't have mining. If we have COVID, we don't have gaming. But, if the more diversified we are, the more we could take a hit from a natural disaster or a pandemic or whatever the case may be. But still, people are leaving their jobs. 450,000 or something was the number for last month of people leaving their jobs. So, I mean, while we did have an increased job number, I think we had added something like 400,000 jobs, of course, under projection. But why are people leaving their jobs? You know what I mean? I mean, whether the vaccine mandates haven't kicked in yet, people should be going back to work. And we see a mass exodus. Like, there's people, like, just casually leaving their jobs all the time.
I think part of it is, like I said, at some point, you no longer feel appreciated. And so it's like, what is the incentive to go back to these companies who don't really care about you anyways, is number one. And number two, I said this in COVID. When COVID hit and things were shutting down, a lot of people were feeling the panic at first of like, what am I going to do? Like I said, I'm always a glass half full. And I'm like, this is the perfect opportunity to explore something else or explore something new or different. And I think that people were forced to do that in COVID, and it's given them a little bit more grit to say, what?
It's not that bad.
Yeah, I can maybe figure something else out.
Right.
But I'm not going to go back to this job who doesn't care for me, doesn't appreciate my work.
Or maybe they even went back to work and then realized,
I'm not happy doing this.
Right.
Yeah, and that's one of it. And then the other part is, I would run into this when I was in the hospitality industry. I always felt like, oh my gosh, what else is out there? And then you take that leap and leave, and you start to realize, like, whoa there's other industries out here that I can tap into. There's other jobs. So maybe it's a part of, I think it's a combination.
Right. Being exposed to something different.
Yeah. Forced to make that decision because maybe you don't feel appreciated anymore at your work, or maybe you go back and you're like, no, I'm not, this isn't for me. And you're just disillusioned. And then the other part is, they see mandates coming down the line and they say, you know what? I can retire now. Might as well just retire now. Yeah.
Well, speaking of COVID, I mean, how do you feel about the whole COVID thing in general? I mean, from the way it went down, we said originally, I remember when the first 15 days to slow the spread. And I was thinking what it would be like to miss a day of commerce in the country. And then we ended up partially missing, going on almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it's crazy.
Could you imagine we had a real emergency? Like where people were, like, Ebola was spreading at the rate that COVID was spreading, or SARS was spreading at the rate that COVID is spreading. I mean, COVID is pretty mild in terms of what you could imagine being a worldwide emergency.
Right.
I mean, but yet we've spent more on COVID than we've spent on every war, including World War II.
Yeah.
I mean, what are your thoughts on just the whole entire response to COVID, and what do you want to see change with the new House of Representatives in 22?
So I'm going to be honest. When I first heard about COVID and when it was first happening, kind of like, what's going on? Right. And then when I heard Italy shut down, I was like, whoa.
Right.
Maybe this is, that kind
woke
of,
you up.
Yeah, it sat me up a little bit, and I was like, okay, what's really going on? And I thought, so at first, I'm not going to lie, the 15 days to slow the spread, I'm like, okay, yeah, makes sense. We don't know much about it.
Right.
We don't know what's happening. Let's find out.
And in an emergency, if China was invading us and they said, hey, guys, go home for 15 days while we take care of this emergency, we're not going to be like, but my rights, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, people, I think, we tend to, we're rational people. I mean, we will say, hey, okay, just 15 days to figure this out. Okay, let's do it. People are agreeable, I should say. I guess we're agreeable. So when that was going on and we didn't have that much information about it, there's people who from the get-go were adamant,
Right.
do not shut down, do not shut down. I remember thinking like, ooh, that doesn't seem very,
For the team.
yeah, but then then information starts coming out pretty quick. And then I think President Trump wanted to open the country back up after Easter. It was like around the Easter time.
Right.
And I was like, yes,
Right.
it's time.
That's time. It was a month.
This is it.
That was 4 weeks.
Yeah, I was like, at that point, the information that we're getting, you could see that it wasn't
Helping. It wasn't helping.
Yeah, the shutdown was definitely not helping. And then number two, you're seeing that, hey, it's a lot more survivable than they were thinking. And I remember I said, it's a virus.
Right.
I'm not a scientist, but I'm like, it's a virus. We know that viruses
Spread.
don't go away. They
Right.
spread, so we're gonna have to learn to live with it. And I was by when he said that, I was like, yeah, we should open. Then it kept going on a bit. And then now looking back, hindsight, 2020 is always easier, right? It's
Of
always,
course.
But okay, we went through it. We know that lockdowns don't work, and I would say never lock down again.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
That's it. Yeah.
I mean, given a totally different circumstance, yeah, but I think we found that lockdowns could have had a detrimental effect because
Yes.
people indoors is where they've been catching it.
Yeah.
If we forced people to stay outdoors from the get-go, I think that would have slowed the spread.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't have cured COVID. No, I don't think anything would. Like you say, a virus is a virus.
We have to learn to live with it. I mean, that's the bottom line.
And how do you feel about them seeking authorization now for 5 to 11-year-olds, and people are considering mandating it in our public schools or our government schools?
Absolutely crazy. I mean, I'm totally against it. I don't think, when you start listening to the vaccine stuff and you start listening to doctors who, talk about the vaccines, I'm not against the vaccine. Like, my dad got the vaccine. I think he should. He's, 74. Makes sense for him to get it.
Right.
For me, personally, I had COVID in June of last year. I've been out and about since June of last year.
Right.
I've been around COVID since then.
Right.
Haven't gotten it.
You're 30, you're skinny, you're healthy.
I remember when I got it, remember vitamin D, I was like, I would go sit out in the sun.
Right.
I forced myself to exercise, even though I couldn't do the complete
Not enough
workout.
people, but it did have that effect on some people. A wake-up call to get a little bit healthier.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think 2020 was when I exercised the most, I feel. But
Congratulations.
yeah. But I remember, I just forced myself to do the workout. I didn't get through the whole thing, but I did about 30 minutes of it. And, there's ways to combat COVID that we know of now. And for me, it's like, why don't they talk about it?
At all.
At all.
Or why don't they talk about
that's-
having had COVID and having natural... Like, they won't even talk about it.
No. And that's why this isn't about health at this point. For me, I'm like, it's no longer about health, because if you're not encouraging people to get outside, get some exercise,
Vitamin D.
yeah, eat right, then you're not offering the therapeutics that we know are out there that have worked for others, then this is definitely not about
Right.
health anymore.
I mean, whether you're talking about the I word or the H word, both of them are relatively safe. I mean, safer than almost any medicine, like just as safe as Advil. Why has it got to be a secret?
Safer-
Why are people not allowed to try to take that?
Safer than staying home. It's like, why don't you want to treat people? It's like safer. It's safer than, staying home and waiting until you have breathing problems to go to the hospital and be put on a...
Right. When meanwhile, if
On a
everybody
ventilator.
had a couple of zinc packs,
Yeah.
a couple of vitamin Ds, and a couple of H words or I words,
Yeah.
that could really minimize things and make things better for people.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that the point? Make things better for
Yeah,
people?
that's the point. But I mean, now what you see they're doing, and especially the kids don't show to be particularly susceptible to it.
Nor
And it's-
vectors.
Yeah.
It's not like they're spreading it to kids aren't getting injured, but they're spreading it to teachers. The safest places, it's turning out, which goes against everything the mainstream has been saying. The safest two places, it seems to be, are in a classroom or on a plane with their recycled air.
Not
And in the beginning, I thought the people who were going to get hammered were the homeless,
yeah.
and they didn't.
No.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's baffling, and it's realizing that air circulation, and kids, they're just not, why are we even considering doing that? I mean, since COVID started, about 500 children have died with COVID. Mm-hmm. And they said back when that number was 350 that almost all of them were kids who couldn't even go to public school because they had such debilitating diseases, whether it's a blood disorder or a brain disorder.
Yeah.
And these kids passed away. Maybe they would have passed away anyway, and they had a positive COVID test.
Yeah.
500 of them. 900 kids have died from not influenza, but from pneumonia in the same time period. So pneumonia is almost twice as deadly as COVID for children. We're not shutting down schools for pneumonia.
No. Or
masking kids for pneumonia. And the kids aren't spreading it.
Yeah.
I don't know why the push so hard.
I mean, for me, it comes back to money. You don't make money off of cheap therapeutics. You don't make money off of
zinc.
Promoting the sun or exercise. You don't make money off of people natural immunity. Right. So.
Well, and then when you're talking about the schools here in Las Vegas, we've got major problems. First of all, they're trying to mandate a vaccine for teachers, and they're talking about implementing that in maybe January, which between me and you, COVID might be like gone by then. Mm-hmm. So could you imagine they're making people get vaccines when nobody's dying anymore? But winter's coming, maybe people go inside, maybe it goes bad. Either way, they're thinking about, we're already short teachers, we're short bus drivers. What are we going to do about people leaving, pilots? They're leaving the workforce when we're already shorthanded because of vaccine mandates.
See, that's where I think that, I don't think that it's totally incompetence of why the leaders are doing this. I think it's really intentional. I think that they want to see a breakdown of American society and the way that our economy functions. I mean, COVID it's not the tool really that they could use to scare people. So now I think it's like, hey, okay, if we lose the workforce, who cares?
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think they want an emergency.
Crush them.
And then say, all right, capitalism doesn't work. We'll save you with socialism. Mm-hmm. There's no other excuse for what they've, from closing the Keystone Pipeline to opening the Russian pipeline to COVID mandates in industries that are already incredibly shorthanded, continuing to give people money and have eviction moratoriums while businesses are going under and people aren't going back to work. And then when you're talking about, I know immigration is a big platform for you. They say here in Las Vegas that 1 out of every 8 people is undocumented. So obviously now we have a housing shortage, we have a water shortage, we have overcrowded classrooms. They say 1 in every 5 children in our classes here in Las Vegas are either undocumented or their family is undocumented. Yeah. So now Sisolak's talking about bringing in another couple thousand of Afghan refugees. Obviously the border, there's people flooding in, and we are in some respects considered a border state.
We act like a sanctuary city.
Right. And what do we do, though? I mean, there's no houses, there's no jobs, there's no money, there's no water, yet we are bringing in illegal immigrants or Afghan refugees to a valley that can only supply so much.
Yeah. I mean, what do we do? I feel this is where the people really need to get loud about it, because I don't think that it's a popular idea. That's not a popular. Elected leaders right now and people kind of in the media like to paint it as, hey, people want this. This is the compassionate side of America. I totally disagree with that. I think that most Americans are pretty logical and rational when it comes to these things, and they understand. And even, people who are here who are not legal yet. I've always said this. I'm like, I think that most people who come in illegally want the door open long enough for them to be in it, to come through, and then they want that thing shut behind them, because they know it doesn't benefit them to continue to have that door open.
So if somebody got in this morning, you'd say chances are if you asked them, they'd say, hey, shut that door behind me.
Yes. they're not dumb.
Right.
You know what I mean? They know this is exactly what happens in other Latin American countries where there's mass migration. It destabilizes the countries that they're from. And so they understand that happens here as well. And that's why I think this is where Americans really need to talk about it and have the difficult conversation. It's not a difficult conversation, really.
Well, I mean, on a personal level, it's difficult.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you are an undocumented person, you come in here, you say, hey, I just want to cut some lawns, I'm looking for a better life, and you're like, oh my God, you're so sweet. Yeah, of course you should stay. But it's a numbers game. I mean, there's only so much we can do. Of course, on a personal level, it's tough to say, all right, we shouldn't have, but you can't have a welfare state, which we undoubtedly are, and open borders. You can't do both. You got the Democrats are going to have to pick one, or it's going to implode unless, as you say, that's their ultimate goal.
I think that's their ultimate goal, to be honest, which is really scary. And it's not just the Democrats. There's people on the Republican side that are right on that train with them.
Right.
Because there's been so many opportunities where, President Trump with the border wall and his immigration policies, they could have done a lot more, but the Republican Party was standing in the way of that. And those are the people that you need to get out.
Right, and those were Republicans standing in the way of Trump because they understand. And that's the question I have, is all these elites, if you're talking about Facebook or Amazon or American Airlines or any of these giant companies, why is nobody suspicious that they keep talking about taxing the rich and all the rich people are like, yeah, tax the rich, yeah.
They're like, yeah, we're not going to get taxed. We know.
That's my point. Nobody's suspicious.
No.
Why is all the corporations, all the rich bazillionaires, and all the Democrats saying, let's tax the rich while they go to their $30,000 a plate soirees?
Yeah.
And nobody's saying, why are the rich screaming, tax the rich, vote for me?
I really think that most of us Americans understand that it's a scam. You know what I mean? I think the ones in the media champion it, the rich themselves champion it, but they're a small group. I think that most of us understand what's happening, but we just need to get more out about it.
It's like the media promoting censorship. It's baffling. It's the rich people are saying tax the rich, and the media is saying censor people, and it's like we're living in a bizarro world.
Yeah.
I don't get it. What can we do about the border? I think we know what we can do. For example, just a couple of days ago, the Supreme Court said that they need to reinstitute the stay in Mexico policy by like November or something like that. And in the past, Biden was told that he can't do a rent moratorium. Yet he uses the FDA to issue one.
The CDC.
After the CDC to issue one.
Crazy.
Even though they just told him he couldn't do it. And then you're talking about using OSHA to institute a vaccine mandate. OSHA has 800 people working for them. How are they going to impose a nationwide vaccine mandate when they have 800 people who are interested in making sure that people have the right masks when they're mining or drilling? It's again, it's bizarro world.
Yeah.
But do you think, number one, Biden will institute the stay in Mexico policy, or will he flaunt it in the face of the courts? And number two, what do you think is the end game? Because either I was going to say what's the solution, but the solution is vote in a Republican, finish the wall.
More than that though, because you need the wall, then you need the fixing of the immigration system itself, because 45% of the people who come in illegally actually fly in on tourist visas and then overstay their visas.
I'm thinking that's pre-COVID, pre-Biden numbers, but right.
Yeah,
we have just as much a problem of visas than we do at the border.
So it's a total system overhaul. Why we issue foreign visa worker visas, but how we give out the tourist visas. How do we vet them? How do we vet them? We don't vet anybody. I know of a family who tried to go to Canada, and Canada looks at your bank accounts. They look at who's coming. They look at what you own. And they realized, hey, a family of 4 is coming. Kiddos are small. They don't own anything back home. They have real, you know what I mean? Like, there's no real incentive for them to go back.
Right.
And they said nope, and they denied the tourist visa. And we need...
That's crazy.
Yeah, we need stringent vetting.
Like any sovereign country
like anything, yeah. You have to have a... Don't tell me that you can't figure out where these people are. I mean, listen.
How many there are.
Yeah, they track down grandmas from January 6th, okay?
Right.
They can track down who's here, how long they've been here, what they've been doing here. They just don't want to. And Chris Kobach is really good on this. He, and do you know who Chris Kobach is?
Is he running for, is he the one with the Vegas Golden Knight color scheme?
I don't know about his color scheme.
What is he running for?
He's running for something right now. I forgot what. But he was governor. He was governor of maybe Arkansas or something.
Oh, okay. Then I'm thinking of somebody different.
No, so Chris. Yeah, he's been really good on immigration, and he talks about it. And he says we have the laws in place, we just don't enforce them.
Right.
So we have to enforce our laws. We have to.
I mean, isn't it illegal for Biden not to enforce them? Yeah,
you would think so. And to your point, no, I don't think that he's going to listen to the Supreme Court.
So they're going to tell him that they mandate that they have to. But I guess it's like anything else, right? With the mask mandates, right? It depends on who's at the front door of Walmart, whether you could get in without a mask or not.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't think that listen, they also said the same thing about the eviction moratorium, but he just kept on going anyways. And he came out on TV and said it. Right. I don't think that he'll implement Remain in Mexico because it's not to his benefit.
To his self-destruction?
Yeah, it's not to his benefit to do so.
And then you mentioned that you used to be Democrat. And you remember one of the tenets of the Democrat Party was a strong southern border.
Yeah. There's videos, so many videos of we need a wall, we need a barrier, we need this, we need that.
We've played them many times on the Johnny Bruce Show. From everybody from Bill to Obama to Biden. To
Pelosi, I want to say. Like, they've all advocated for
it. What's his name from New York? Schumer. All of them. To a person. We need a strong southern border. We are a country of laws. And I could almost quote the Obama quote because I've seen that one so many times.
Yeah. And that's the craziest thing about it all. I mean, I think he deported the most out of any president, right? The
Obama did,
administration. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know how people don't see that. I mean, listen, I guess I didn't see it for a while, right?
Same thing with building the cages, right? Mm-hmm. And then Trump is in office and they all look at Trump's cages. Well, who built them? Oh, those pictures are from 2015. Yeah. Oh, this, all that.
But it's like, what do you expect, though? I mean, what else can we do? To me, I'm like, those cages are the perfect example for we need to fix our system.
Right.
You know?
Right, because girls are getting raped.
Yes.
I mean, people are dying crossing jungles or with getting into an argument with a coyote or whatever the case.
It is the biggest humanitarian crisis that's happening right now.
I mean, I heard about a dude who sent his 12-year-old daughter into the caravan to go to America because he thinks that she's got a shot to get in. And they gave her some, date rape drug. So that way it's like a birth control for 14 days because he was convinced that she would probably get raped on the journey, and he sent her anyway.
And that's the thing. So I've heard of Hispanic Democrats. Hispanic Democrats say this, that when they see what's happening at the border, they say even the parents in other countries should be facing jail or whatever for doing this to kids like that. I mean, that's what, and to me, I'm like, that's common sense. If you're a parent, how could you do that?
Right.
I would never. You know what I mean?
I mean, I can't stand, when my son was 5 or 4 or 12 not to even be out of my eyesight, much less on a trek on a caravan with coyotes and druggies.
Yeah.
Drug cartels.
Yeah. And there was, other stations have done really good reporting on this because obviously the mainstream media doesn't really show it. But they were interviewing some Venezuelans who were crossing over, and they're like, women and kids should not be doing this. It is dangerous. They get raped, they get molested, they get abused. It's not a trek for,
women or children.
For women or children to be doing. And guys shouldn't listen. Nobody should be doing this. You risk your life doing it.
Right, and also if you're a guy though, you're a militiaman. I mean, if you're between 18 and 35,
you're gonna get recruited into
Right, and you're going to become part of the drug cartel. And if we see you coming in, I mean, if the American, I mean, we've seen it. Nobody seems concerned. But when there's 10,000 men between the ages of 18 and 35 pouring into your country, it's racist to call that an invasion.
But
what is it?
But
Right.
it is. And what do you think that's going to happen with these guys who are young, don't have money, don't have family support, don't have a father figure?
Right.
It's disaster.
Right. If they don't get a job in their first week here, they're going to be part of a gang.
Yeah.
They're going to hold people up or hijack a car or whatever the case may be to eat that day.
Yeah.
And it's easier to get into the job with the gang than it is at MGM, right? And then what happens, though, they keep pushing all this stuff on Biden. I think, personally, it's just my opinion, that they're pushing all this stuff on Biden, from the $3.5 trillion to the open borders to the trouble in Afghanistan. I mean, Biden came in, I was pissed. In January of this year, when I realized that Trump was not going to be president, I was really upset because I felt like we're coming out of a pandemic. We have the vaccine. The economy's at the bottom. It's got nowhere to go but up. Morale has got nowhere to go but up. If Biden just hid in a basement for 6 months, he'd be the greatest American president of all time, because the economy would come back, unemployment would go down, people would be happy, people would be getting vaccinated, everything would be great. And he's ruined everything.
Yeah.
And like you say, I agree, it seems like it's by design. So they're going to throw all this stuff on Biden, and then what? Is he going to leave and we're going to get Kamala? Or are they going to ride Biden out for 4 years? Or, I mean, he has trouble sometimes putting sentences together.
Yeah, big time.
What do you think? I mean, but the alternative, I mean, I don't think Republicans are pushing for it because we are more afraid of what Kamala would do than what Biden is going to do.
I don't think that he's going to finish out his term, number one. And number two, I think he's just like a fall guy. I think actually Kamala is realizing, she's been pretty strategic in keeping herself distanced from stuff.
Everything.
And I think she realizes, like, hey, I'm going to be whoever takes that role is the next fall guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, for Biden, he probably doesn't even know what's happening.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, no offense, Joe, but he's going to pass away.
Right.
Within 20 years. I mean, just to be safe, right? I mean, either way, he's going to pay. Kamala is, 46 or 56 years old? I mean, she's going to be around for 30, 40, 50 years. She's going to have this on her resume.
But, I feel like the people who get to the really top of the government that we have right now, I feel like sometimes, you hear people say, oh, they're just so incompetent and da-da. I'm like, no, I don't think that they're incompetent. I think that they're just that corrupt and willing to sell out at any cost. And I think that Kamala is one of those as well. But I think she's being a little bit more careful. She's a little more aware of
what's going on,
what's coming down the pipeline for her, right?
I mean, what was going down in Afghanistan, and she went to the Asian summit or something in the Philippines. Yeah. And then the border is leaking like a sieve, and, she's going to visit, some inland town in Texas, and that's her. Joe Biden's never been to the border ever in his life. Kamala's been there for one day and not at a problem spot.
Yeah. But I think that they are scared, though. I think that if we continue to put the pressure and we continue to, the more that they double down and try to control, I think the more it shows the American people reject it even more. And that pressure, luckily we're still at a point where our politicians respond to pressure. And so that's why I think it's really important to get really good people into office this go around, because that window is closing each time. But right now they're still susceptible to pressure, and they're still susceptible to the American people pushing back. And so I think if we increase it, then we can.
I pray that 2016 isn't the last time we were able to overcome all the barriers that were set in place to make the Republican Party fail.
No, I don't think so. And you see it with like somebody like Kamala, who's like, ooh, okay, I really got to distance myself, because that's going to come from me if I'm not careful,
Right. And then finally, regarding the foreign policy, how do you feel about, you mentioned something about breaking down the system. I mean, about 8 months ago, they said they were going to take a 6-month pause in the military to root out extremists in the military. You heard Miley talking about inspecting his own white rage and promoting books by Ibram X. Kennedy to people at the Naval Institute and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then, while they were worried about all that, the Taliban is overrunning Afghanistan, and then Biden decides to pull out at the same time that the Taliban is basically wiping it out, closing Bagram Air Base, the fall of Kabul, obviously 13 service members passing away, along with about 200 Afghani people. They're still saying there's hundreds, thousands of people left there, tens of thousands of people who don't deserve to be there, whether they're green card holders, special immigrant visas. How do you feel about our foreign policy regarding that, as well as, say, China and our adversaries and the leaders of our military?
The approach that I take, listen, China is there. So the Chinese Communist Party is a number one enemy, right? We know how dangerous they are. But for me, clearly one of our biggest threats is China. But for me, I say they're going to do what they're going to do in order to achieve their goals. My problem is with the people in our country who were elected as our leaders who sold out the country.
Right.
Because China would not be where it's at if it weren't for the help that our own leaders
over the past 20 years literally gave them.
Yeah. And so that's why I always say, I'm like, I want to keep the focus on the United States. I want to keep the focus on everyone, because we can't control what Xi Jinping and
But I don't think Xi Jinping is promoting things that will improve the American economy either. Like, why are we concerning ourselves with the Chinese economy when the Chinese economy is concerned with the Chinese economy?
Correct. I mean, I'm of the idea that, hey, we need to manufacture in America, keep things on our soil, because when you look at we're kind of veering off, but when you look at
welcome to the Johnny Brew Show,
the Ricardo comparative, the theory of comparative advantage, that theory about free trade specifically stated that free trade works if the manufacturing stays within the company's borders. So the moment that you and I are trading, but I say, oh, but let me send my manufacturing somewhere else, whoever gained that manufacturing is now, it's a zero sum game. They've now won in the game. Right.
Because they don't have to spend. They only get money for their product.
You have to produce. You know what I mean? You have to produce it.
Make the money go around.
Yeah.
I pay you for some milk. You pay the farmer for the cow. The farmer comes and buys some tutoring at my institute. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to work, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know. You kind of lost me there. I'm not going to lie.
Well, we're just spending our money together. But once we're sending some money to China for manufacturing, we lose that money.
Well, we're sending our jobs. That's the important part. It's not so much the money. We're sending our jobs. So our people are no longer producing that. It's
creating a hole in the chain.
Yeah, because so there's a really good book called The Coming of Neo-Feudalism by Joel Kotkin, and it's The Coming of Neo-Feudalism and a Warning to the Global Middle Class. And he talks about this. So he talks about California, specifically San Francisco. San Francisco used to be the most egalitarian society. It used to have the most robust middle class because manufacturing was there. The moment that they start sending their jobs out, people obviously start getting more poor. Right. You have a less productive society. You're paying to bring this stuff in. And then, they sold us the pipe dream of, hey, just go into the service industry and you'll be fine. Sure, you and I know you can make money in the service industry, but is it
you're not producing something.
Is it sustainable?
Right.
Is it long term? No, it's not. So, where are we going with this? But yeah, so.
Well, I mean, I asked you a long time ago.
So with the economy between us and China, yes, you're right. Why are we trading with them when their policy is completely isolationist? They have control of all the manufacturing. They just export.
Right. Right. And if they need something, they just don't export it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they need, ventilators. All right. Well, we're going to save these for us. We need microchips. Mm-hmm. Well, we have microchips. We need, medicine. Oh, well, we have the medicine. What are we going to do? We don't have the medicine. It's in China.
No, they dominate.
In China.
They're dominating the supply chain. They're dominating a lot of stuff because and that's the thing. It's like, if it's not China, it's not just China, right? Like our leaders, if it wasn't China, if the other superpower that was coming up was India, they would do the same with India. So it's like we need people who
Well, because they're trying to get on the gravy train. They're not trying to make America better.
No.
They're saying India's up and coming. Let me get a piece of that.
Yeah, they're like, oh, is the cheaper labor over there? Great, let's send it over there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they just care about making the profits, and that's part of the problem
you're
with.
talking about some Republicans as well. That's why the illegal immigration, we can't stomp it out because it's cheaper labor.
Yeah.
It's more diluting the labor pool.
Exactly. And so they care more about increasing their profits than the well-being of the economy and the society as a whole. And I'm not saying, oh, rich people shouldn't exist, or oh, you shouldn't make a profit. Right. Absolutely make a profit.
Right.
But there's also
country. There's God, there's family, there's country.
Yeah, there's also, other people to think about here too, who, by the way, are your consumers.
Right.
I mean, sorry to say, but our consumption, us Americans buying these products, is what makes these people rich in the first place.
100%.
You know what I mean? They need us. I don't care what anybody says.
And I think they realize that. I know
more so than they would need
stuff.
Chinese consumers.
Some of the more outlandish liberal slogans from, say, United Airlines or Coca-Cola were withdrawn because they were seeing that it was affecting their bottom line. Mm-hmm. I mean, Southwest Airlines, I haven't confirmed that they're withdrawing their vaccination mandate because they were going to lose too many pilots.
Delta said it out today. I know Delta came out and said it. Yeah.
So maybe
they're not enforcing the vaccine. And that's the thing. It's like we have so much more power than we realize as people. But we need to start using it.
Right. And we need to organize ourselves because there's too many people going in too many different directions.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're trying to do what you're been called to do.
Mm-hmm.
What I want you to do is I want you to tell the people you get 2-3 minutes. You sell them on why they should be voting for you, not only in the primary, but in the general election for the House of Representatives. The floor is all yours.
Okay. So I think that part of me running is that I have a vision for the country that is different than what we've been experiencing for the past few decades. I would say that the Republican Party is starting to realize that we need to run people who aren't afraid to say out loud that right now is not the time for bipartisanship, because in order to have bipartisanship, you have to have common core values with the other person or the other party. And that's simply not happening right now. So we know that the left is acting aggressively in changing this country, and we have to be willing we have to be willing to elect people who understand that and will get into office and use their power to shape this country into what we all used to know it as and love it as, and not be afraid to take it back to the founding documents, and to make sure that this country heads in a direction that's beneficial not just to a small group of people but for everybody. And I also want to say that I know that we're not as divided as our leaders want us to believe. And so I'm very much open to bringing people from all parties together. I know that we can do it. We have the manpower. I want to say it, time and time again. We have the numbers. We have a lot more in common than we're told. And we need to just use that power and not be afraid to take our country back and be proud of our country, stand up for our country, and stand up for our fellow Americans.
Beautiful. Well, I know that you're super self-taught. I know, you got a small team, you said, and everything you've been studying and doing and working towards. I mean, I'm super impressed. You seem to really have a lot of knowledge about a lot of things, and you're so well-spoken, and I love your message, and obviously it's a very conservative message, which we could get on board for. And anybody who is going to be running and representing conservative values, obviously, you're welcome here on the Johnny Bruce Show. And you guys who are enjoying this for the first time, please subscribe, hit the bell. I really appreciate you coming on. It was a blast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Not
I enjoyed
your typical
it.
10-minute interview. Yeah. So we all got a chance to get to know you. So we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Johnny.
Onward and upward.
Thank you. Thanks.